My name is Patricia Reed. I come from, I'm American. I've been in Singapore since 2006. I worked in the tech industry. I started in the tech industry a long time ago I think it was 1999, back in the dark ages. And I've been here in Singapore since 2006. I came from a background of large enterprise B2B type consulting and services, sales and business development, and have kind of moved into the startup space more recently, also doing some angel investing and working with some of the projects that I've invested in to ensure that they're successful. In terms of adaptability in UCLA and NUS, I was really drawn to the program because I've been living in Singapore since 2006. I liked the idea of having a prestigious Asian university MBA degree. And as an American, I was drawn to UCLA-Anderson as well, just maybe for the opportunity to go to California a couple of times for the segments, but also, to have some Americans on the program to learn from. And since I've been gone so long, and to have, expand my network there. I graduated in 2012, and one thing, when I was taking the program, I was actually with Microsoft, and I had started this program while there because I wanted to really try something a little different, where I was using a broader skill set than in a corporate environment, and I wanted to kind of branch out into the startup space. So I finished my MBA and started working for a startup. And it's a very dynamic environment. I tell people, like, if you don't like change, do not go into tech, because it changes all the time. But I suppose it's given me a wonderful network of people, especially locally. I join a lot of our social events, and that's something that's ongoing way back since I graduated, and that's long finished. And I remember my favorite class was by far the strategy class. We had a wonderful professor Singh, who was just incredibly knowledgeable and engaging, and really brought the topic alive. And I refer back to that class regularly when I'm working with startups, in terms of my approach that I use with them to address strategy. I've helped a number of startups, turn around and pivot, because, it's a very rough world being a startup out there, and there's a high fail rate. So I sometimes get asked to go in and work with a CEO that's wanting to figure out how to turn things around, and that's a lot of fun. Definitely. I think it adds a richness to the environment. I know that's why a lot of people joined the program. I joined it for a few reasons. I really liked the format of it, because I was, a full-time work with 2 kids, and I still wanted to do an MBA. And I liked the fact that this was, I took a few weeks full-time out of my work schedule per quarter and really just focused on an MBA. We were full-time there, and the classes went like very long hours. Like, we were working, very long days. But it was intense, but I really enjoyed it, because I would do a lot of my prep work and reading before I would go to the segment. And then when we were there, we would just do a lot of hours in class. So there's that Greek saying that says the best time to plant a tree was yesterday, the next best time is today. And I have children. I'm a human being. I kind of am renting space on this planet while I'm here, and I kind of feel like there's a crisis that's happening, and it's very slow moving, and unfortunately no single government can address it alone. And it's very easy to get billions of dollars for war, or to get billions of dollars for some short-term crisis that's, let's say a flood or whatever. We can always find billions of dollars to address that. What seems to be more problematic is for governments to be able to act long-term, because they're in term limits of, let's say 4 years, and it fundamentally constrains their ability to think strategically about sustainability. And I don't want to wait for that to happen. So in addition to, I grew up in Texas, I ate meat all the time, didn't even think about it. And then 12 years ago, I started eating, became a lunchtime vegetarian. And in addition to little things like this, which I choose 3 times a day, the amount of impact I want to have on the planet by what I eat, I also wanted to start looking at other aspects of sustainability. So, for example, I've invested in a sustainable ag feed company called Full Circle, which is really exciting. And then I'm also involved with another startup. It was a seed investor in a fintech focused on low income and micro entrepreneurial women. These women, just in Southeast Asia alone, there are 245 million unbanked women. And globally, the opportunity is a $5 trillion opportunity. And I see sustainable finance for women as a way to impact sustainability, because women tend to be very focused on their families and use their resources quite shrewdly. And so I see empowering women as a way to not just impact sustainability and their lives, but also expand economies globally. I definitely reach out to the network when I need, for example, I reached out, I was introduced to someone who happened to have an ag feed company. I was looking for a contact in India. And I was at a social networking event just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was talking about some of the fundraising I was doing for a couple of the startups. And one of the guys was like, no, I'm very risk averse, but if there's anything else you need, tell me. And he was an Indian guy. And I said, well, actually, I'd love to have a great contact in India for my ag feed company. And he goes, oh, actually, I happen to know our previous president has the largest ag feed company in India. He's like, would you like an introduction? And I was like, yeah. I just couldn't believe it was like ask and thou shalt receive. I was not expecting that at all. But the network has, I'm in a WhatsApp group with, a couple hundred people or something. And when I need something, I just kind of send a WhatsApp to the group. Hey, does anybody have a contact here, there, or wherever? And I find that that's been probably the biggest ongoing benefit that I've had from the course, is having that network to reach out to. Lucy is interesting in that a lot of fintechs are focused on replacing existing financial services. What really attracted to me to Lucy is a couple of things in particular. First of all, that it was focused on expanding financial services to unserved markets, particularly low-income women. If you look at countries, let's just take Myanmar and many countries in Asia and Africa for that matter, women have a very hard time accessing credit. They don't have equity. Equity is often land. Land is only owned by men and inherited by men. So when they want to go to a bank for a loan, they have to bring their husbands. Their husband will often take the money, and maybe they'll get the money, maybe they will get a part of the money, but it's not a straightforward, relationship between a woman, her business, and the bank. And that's just something that has really eluded women in these markets for many, many years. As our fintech, we're not just replacing, existing financial services and making them more efficient or something. It's really about expanding them. And like I said, this is it's a $5 trillion opportunity globally. Women are a phenomenal opportunity, but it's been traditionally an area that banks have struggled to serve because they don't have a lot of money and their cost of service is very high. So what Lucy has done is created a SaaS platform, which is a B2B2C platform, which we plan to partner with large banks all over the world. And tell them, okay, Bank X in Indonesia, you have all these women that are unbanked, you struggle to serve them. We'd like to sell you our SaaS platform. We will do all of the marketing, all of your customer acquisition for you, because we really know how to do this through channels such as Instagram and so forth to reach women that you're not accustomed to using. And we will grow this business for you. You just buy our SaaS platform and pay us an operations fee for example, and we will grow this for you. So we don't want to replace existing banks. We actually want to partner with them to expand financial services in markets where there's been a gap in services, specifically around serving women. I actually find it still really a struggle as a woman to be taken seriously in business a lot of times. Finding opportunities, seeing where I fit in, like, and if I'm honest, as a strong woman, and having a high degree of intelligence and wanting to share my views, it's not always easy to be heard, and there's a lot of resistance, and there's a very well documented phenomenon around likability and competence. And so there's always that struggle. You're like, do I want to be liked or do I want to be competent? And I kind of like being competent, but then I don't want people to hate me. So it's a constant, juggling act. And I mean, if I'm honest, I haven't figured it out yet. I'm still learning. And in my class, there were very few women there. And I think it's a good idea for women to consider, like, increasing representation in business, and an MBA program is one obvious way to do that. The cultures of the two universities, you're absolutely right, they couldn't be more different. In a Singapore type environment, like, students are very they're not as talkative, I would say, as American student environments, where it's a lot more interactive with the professor. And you saw that in the students that were in class as well, like the culture of the students who would engage very differently with professors. And the professors in NUS, for example, their culture was very Singaporean and quite a bit, I would say, more formal and structured, and there was interaction and give and take, but it was a lot more formal, I would say. Whereas the UCLA professors, there was a lot more informality towards it, and not all of them, but a lot of humor and storytelling and things like that, which, at least for someone like me, I'm a huge fan of stories as a way to teach people and to make things stick and resonate. So that I really enjoyed that. So yeah, the two cultures are very different, but I think it's also, it's oftentimes the first experience that a lot of the students had of working in a different culture, like for the Americans to come to Asia, and it's their first time to really be operating in an Asian environment. And even though it is in a business environment, you definitely get the vibe of how things are very different from an American environment, for example. So that has a value in itself of kind of maybe dipping your toe in the water of a culture before you actually get sent there to work for one reason or another.